Welcome to the Bringing the Human Back to Human Resources podcast. I'm Traci Chernoff, and I've spent my entire professional career in HR. Each week, we'll explore the delicate balance between people and business with the aim to reconnect the two and create meaningful outcomes. Listen in as I share my own experiences, challenge the status quo, and chat with guests from various industries about our mission to bring the human back to human resources. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Bringing the Human Back to Human Resources podcast. Thanks so much for being here for another week. This is like my first solo episode in so long. I have had so many guests for you to hear from and learn from that I've learned a lot from. And I've really missed having a couple solo episodes. Sometimes I think if you've been here long enough, you know, sometimes my creative juices just, they run out. And the guest episodes really help me to tap into that again and also like, I don't know, think about things differently. Like I never want to find myself in this echo chamber just preaching or talking about things that I find important or relevant or interesting. And that leads me to mention that I have so many amazing guests that are still scheduled for the rest of 2025. I will hopefully have a few more solo episodes sprinkled in. And I actually am already in 2026. So I haven't recorded for 2026 yet, but soon enough. But all of that to say that I would really love your feedback. It's been a little while since I've kind of given you this call to action, but I would just love to hear from you. Like, do you like the guest episodes? Do you like some more than others? Do you like the solo episodes more? Tell me how I can best serve you or at least, kind of fulfill whatever it is that you're looking for. Podcasts are like a funny thing. I'm a podcast listener. I generally really only listen to like comedy podcasts. It's just, you know, kind of where I blow off some steam, I suppose. But I do also listen to like the Nerd Wallet podcast. It's a great podcast, by the way, and some other very niche, like specific podcasts similar to mine that are focused on helping people navigate certain things or that give them some new and interesting information. And so it's one of those things where I only know what I know. And obviously I've been doing this for like 4.5 years and my podcast has evolved a lot, which I love. But it's been a while since I've heard specifically from really anyone. Like, do you like what has come of the podcast? Do you like the content? Are you engaged on social media? It would just help me as I think about, you know, the next phase, the next year of my podcast and how I can really, again, best serve you as listeners who I'm really dedicated to. And I just appreciate always that you spend time with me every week and you listen to my rants or my opinions or guests' opinions. And so I really appreciate it. And, you know, there's never enough gratitude that we can express. I will always take the time to say thank you. So with that, you know, I'll leave it to you. If you have any feedback for me, reach out to me on Instagram, email me at contact@hrtraci.com, reach out to me on my website, hrtraci.com, so that I can, again, like, maybe further evolve. Like if I hear that everyone really misses solo episodes, I'm going to do more solo episodes. If I hear I never want to hear from you again, I only want to hear your guests, then great, I'll do less solo episodes. And ultimately, I'll always do what feels right for me, of course. But I would love your feedback. Feedback is a gift, and it's really important, especially as I continue to evolve my business. So thank you in advance. Okay, this week, I have a note for myself. I'm going to show you my note. Hold on, because I wrote it down. It's on a little piece of scrap paper here. It says, SHRM certifications, need them, covering LOAs, and then the rest of it is ripped off because I wrote, I think, our Chinese food order on it. Classic. So I wrote this down because someone had asked me, I think I was working with a client of mine, and they said, like, you know, do I need to pursue a SHRM certification? Do I need any certification? And this person was already in HR. Yeah, this was a client, actually. I was thinking, like, was this someone that I was mentoring? No, this was a client, someone in HR. And she specifically had around like 5 years of experience. And she, you know, wanted to go for a new role and kind of evolve her HR career. And she just wasn't sure if she wasn't getting a ton of traction because of not having certifications. So I've done episodes like this before, but really you can never talk about this enough. In my opinion, and this is just my opinion, I'll always tell you, seek out other opinions, don't just listen to mine. Um, I don't believe that certifications are abundantly necessary for anyone, but especially for people who have HR experience, like on the ground, so to speak, quote unquote. Meaning, if someone has experience working in HR or talent acquisition or some sort of like adjacent type of role, like maybe they're a people manager, for example, and they deal with a lot of employee relations, performance management, and things like that, that a certification is really potentially not necessary. And especially if this is self-funded, it could just end up being a waste of money. It really depends. I do think that there are circumstances where people benefit from having certifications, and those are people who don't have any working experience at all, or especially in HR or an adjacent type of field or role. And the certification gives them that insight that they otherwise don't have from on the job experience. I've shared before, I don't have any certifications in HR. I don't plan on getting any ever. It's just not where I believe my time is best spent, because I have over 10 years of working experience in HR. And further, I have a master's, and sometimes you learn different things. That's not a word, but certain or different things about this career. I did a master's in public administration. But you can do masters in different things, whether it's business administration or even HR management. You learn different aspects of managing people, managing businesses within those programs. And to me, a master's is stronger than having any certification. Not everyone wants to pursue a master's. It's an expensive thing. And mine was self-funded. So I totally can appreciate that not everyone wants to spend the money. But, if you get a little bit of tuition reimbursement, which I did, I got a little bit when I was still working at Target, then it could be worth it. And this is where I have this caveat that if you have the opportunity to have your professional development or your education compensated or covered by your employer, certifications included, there's no harm. Like, is it totally going to be the thing that like catapults your career? Probably not. But if your employer is paying for it, don't leave money on the table. So it's one of these things where it's like, sure, you can do it, but like if you're going to pay for it yourself, it really depends. Like it might not be worth your money or your time. And so all of this whole conversation that I had with my client came down to, okay, you have the experience and you're asking this question, why? Like, why is this coming up? And it turns out that a lot of jobs are saying that they prefer different certifications, which I find really interesting, because similarly to really requiring any educational background or experience, is it really necessary to do a job well? And so I had even done my own little, side research on this because I was just interested to see, are a lot of jobs requiring this or are they preferring it? Like, where is it coming up? And especially for HR generalist roles, for like business partner roles, and even like director level, which I was really surprised by, frankly. It said like prefer SHRM certification or HRCI, equivalent certification. It's just a really strange thing to me because the best example of someone being able to do that job is really great experience, not a certification. These certifications are not what vets someone's ability to do the job. And so I think this is also potentially a message for employers out there who are hiring for HR professionals. Certifications, just because someone has a certification does not mean that they are going to be able to do the job, or that they're going to be able to do the job better than someone else. And I feel this same kind of way about educational experience requirements. Like in an HR role, do you really need to have a college degree? Do you really need to have a master's? My master's did allow me to earn more, and that is one great benefit. That's it sets you apart. You become a higher compensated person, which is great, but it does cost money to get these things. And when I think about this in the framework of equity, if people don't have access to those levels of education for whatever reason, whether it's because they don't know to take loans, they don't want to take loans. I took loans, it's very expensive, you pay it back. And you think about all the money that you could have had if you didn't have loans, but maybe that's just me. And not everyone wants to make those decisions or can make those decisions or have the resources to make those decisions. So it's like, are we as employers preventing great candidates from being sourced and considered just because of these what could be archaic educational or certification based preferences? And there are a lot of people talking about this. There always will be, I think, and I've talked about this before on my podcast. Certainly for some roles, especially those that are more technical, experience and educational experience or a background with specific degrees is probably really important. However, with HR, if someone has work experience and they only have not only but they have a high school degree, let's say, and they don't have anything else, why should that hold them back from being able to attain more experience? In fact, I worked with a client who is also a listener. Hopefully she still listens. I think she might. Who I worked on her resume and she did not have college experience. And this was something that she was working toward. And if I recall correctly, I think I am. And she, she was going for a promotion at work. And this was something that was required in the role, even though it was an internal, mobility opportunity. And we did, interview preparation also. And we talked through how she would talk about that. And again, I think it's great that someone like her, she was pursuing further education because that's the best investment that you can make in yourself, frankly. But I just think it's super archaic for employers to require educational experiences for HR degrees. Not HR degrees, HR roles. Sorry. If you get an HR degree, that's great if you want to. But again, the best thing that you can do is get the work experience. And then it begs the question of, well, how do I get the work experience if I can't get the work experience, right? And this is where I go to my next note, which is covering LOAs. And this was like a very last minute scribble on this piece of paper because I was talking to one of my team members about this. So we have someone on the team out on LOA, and this particular team member of mine is covering this LOA. And so she's in a temporary role. And she was saying how before she got into HR, she was working at a particular company, and someone who ended up becoming a mentor to her was really the person that got her into her first HR job. And and frankly, I think that's really how it happens. You have to be connected. You have to demonstrate that you have, some of these natural skills like being a problem solver and conflict resolver, and you have critical thinking and you pay attention to details and you can analyze things, right? All of those typically innate skills that people either have or don't have tend to be a really good match or profile for an HR career. And so this team member of mine, her mentor noticed this and was able to really get her into what was the start of her HR career. And it ended up being, she had just shared this with me actually yesterday. She had shared with me that this particular mentor said that she, really likes covering leaves, whether it's maternity leaves or other types of leaves, because you get a ton of experience that sometimes you otherwise wouldn't. And she ended up, I guess her mentor ended up doing just that. Like she was pretty much just going as a temporary employee through every opportunity where she's covering these leaves and she's getting all this experience in industries. And lo and behold, here my team member is covering a leave. And all of this came up because I asked her how it was going. And we were, it was basically doing a pulse check because I always want people to be happy, whether they're temporary or permanent, it doesn't matter. They're still having an impact on people and an organization, and they're still hopefully taking something positive away. And she was saying how she's learning so much in this LOA coverage and that it's been a great experience. So obviously I was happy just as her manager on that. But when I think about this in relation to SHRM certifications and educational, like it was just helping me to realize that getting into HR or developing an HR career that's strong and sets you up for all of these next steps or your dream role within HR, it's not always linear. It's not like TA, recruit or coordinator, and then HR admin, and then HR generalist, and then HR business partner or payroll manager. Like it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes you have to pivot and you have to find other ways to grow your career. Maybe it is through a certification like HRCI. I would go with HRCI over SHRM personally. Or maybe it's through leave coverage. Because when I see someone who has experience covering leaves, for example, or working in a temporary capacity, these are people who can hit the ground running, make quick impacts, are able to get up to speed really fast, are smart because that you have to be really agile and be able to just like get it, right? And I was just really, I had this reflection point where I was like, oh, wait, this is another great recommendation that I can share with all of you. If you're finding that you're maybe a little stuck in your careers and you're not finding that next step the way that you want. First of all, I actually shared this with a good friend of mine who ended up just securing a new role for herself in HR. But I was like, before I filled this role with my current team member, this LOA role, I said, hey, I have this opportunity. You're trying to leave where you are. Like, this is a great opportunity. And like, you never know, temporary roles turn into permanent roles all the time. This is the other message that I have for all of you, is that you never know when this becomes like your next full-time gig. And she was not really open to it. She was like, I need more stability. And I get that. However, if and I shared this with her too, so don't think I'm speaking badly about my friend behind her back. I'm not. She knows that I shared this feedback with her. When you look at the bigger picture and you see the opportunity to like be in a new industry without having to like go through all of these interviews to try and be like that full-time person, because it's very hard sometimes to switch into industries, like especially to get into tech. These are amazing opportunities to get your feet wet and to kind of sharpen your tools within a particular industry, but also, sharpen your tools within your own career. And you can demonstrate, and in a lot of places, leaves are longer than 3 or 4 months. It depends, right? What type of leave it is, but you get to have all of this experience. You make new connections. You have hopefully a really positive impact on a new organization, and you're meeting new people who hopefully give you recommendations or refer you for other things. And you expand your pool, you expand your network so much in just a few months. It's such a great experience. And it would be silly to just turn down a temporary role just because it's temporary. Like, I would really encourage everyone, I said this to my friend too, think about the bigger picture, really think about how this can catapult you into the next thing, especially if someone's trying to switch industries. At the end of the day, when I was looking for a leave coverage, like a temporary person who my team member is now, in the role for, I was like, I don't care what industries they've worked in. I need someone who has some HR experience, not a ton, but some, who can hit the ground running, has the chops to be able to do the work that needs to be done, and all with a good attitude, right? And so this is where it's like, if someone's trying to break, I don't know if you can hear my daughters laughing in the background. If you can, hopefully it brightens your day. The mic picks up so much. Anyway, it's like, this is where you have the opportunity to do so much more in such a short period of time. I think one of the hardest things that I encountered was switching industries, going from retail to tech. And if this resonates with you at all, if you're trying to shift an industry or you're trying to meet new people and you're finding it really difficult to hit the ground running and get these opportunities, really think about these temporary roles. Fine, you don't get benefits. Maybe, things look a little bit different in terms of how you work or what you earn. But if you look at the bigger picture, you could potentially walk away with a whole lot more than what you started out with. So all of this to say, the certification thing, again, depends. Personally, if you have at least 3 or 5 years of working experience, I don't think it's necessary. If you're finding that in interviews, jobs are like, oh, well, you don't have a certification. What's that about? And you're talking about your experience and they're still pushing back. I can't understand why they would push back, but then I would say maybe you can try and find a way for your current employer to pay for your certification. That's probably the best case scenario, is that you are not self-funding certifications that might not actually add value to your life or your career. But again, I think HRCI has good certifications and they're quite strong, the courses. And I just tend to prefer them to SHRM. And I've talked about this, but we'll see how it evolves. We'll see how these requirements and preferences from companies evolve. But at the very least, hopefully some of you start to think about these temporary opportunities with a little bit more of an optimistic outlook as well. And I'm curious if anyone has worked in a temporary capacity, what your experiences were like, and if you have any, feedback or anecdotes to share there. So I hope you have a wonderful week ahead. Thank you so much again for tuning in. And as I mentioned in the beginning of the episode, if you have any feedback for me, let me know, email me, connect with me on Instagram, message me on LinkedIn, wherever you can find me. And I appreciate it. Thanks again for listening. Talk to you soon. See you next week. Hey, just before you go, don't forget to subscribe to this show so that you are the first to hear when an episode drops each week. And maybe leave a 5-star review and a comment about how much you loved this episode. Plus, if you have someone in mind who would really enjoy this episode, make sure you share it with them. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next week.